Welcome to our today's do-it-yourself topic, how our defense mechanism uses denial to protect us and how to get out of the denial trap. For real validation to this topic, please focus only on the content. Kindly ignore my lacunas in pronunciation, tone, expression, accent, grammar, my looks, and even this video's background. For the content of this video, please ask. There are 19 ways our defense mechanism uses denial. First is displacement, that is taking up our frustration of one situation and person on others who are weaker than you and who did not have any role in your frustration. Second is denial is an outright refusal to admit or recognize that something has occurred or is currently occurring. People living with drug or alcohol addiction often deny that they have a problem, while victims of traumatic events may deny that the event have ever occurred. That is refusal to accept. Third is repression. Repression acts as to keep information out of conscious awareness. But because these memories can't just disappear, they continue to influence our behavior. For example, someone who has repressed memories of abuse suffered as a child may have difficulty maintaining intimate relationship. Suppression, forcing the unwanted information out of our awareness by burying it deeply. But these memories still influence our lives when some unconscious triggers are pressed. Sublimation, this allows us to act out unacceptable emotional energies in more acceptable form. For example, a person experiencing extreme anger might take up karate as a means of venting frustration. Projection. This is about taking our own unacceptable qualities or feelings and ascribing them to other people. For example, if you are suspicious of others, you may believe and tell your partner that they are being neurotic. Intellectualization. For example, a person who has just been diagnosed with a terminal illness might focus on learning everything about the disease in order to avoid distress and remain distant from the reality of the situation. Rationalization, creating reasons to justify an unacceptable behavior or feeling in a rational or logical manner, avoiding the true reasons for the behavior. Regression. In this, people sometimes abandon coping strategies and revert to patterns of behavior used earlier in their earlier childhood development stage. Reaction formation. It happens by taking up the opposite feeling, impulse, or behavior. An example of reaction formation would be treating someone you strongly dislike in an excessively friendly manner in order to hide your true feelings. Acting out. Coping with stress by engaging in actions rather than acknowledging and bearing certain feelings. Avoidance, flatly refusing to deal with or encounter unpleasant objective situation. Compensation, over achieving in one area to compensate for failures in other. Disassociation, becoming separated or removed from one's experience and reality. Fantasy, avoiding reality by retreating to a safe place within one's mind. That means going into a totally comatose thinking mode. Humor, pointing out the funny or ironic aspect of situation. Passive aggression, indirectly expressing anger. Trying to make up for what one feels are inappropriate thoughts, feelings, or behaviors. That means if you hurt someone's feeling, you might offer to do something nice for them in order to overcome your anxiety or guilt. Now, how to move past denial? How to live your life normally? There are 35 ways. When faced with an overwhelming turn of events, it is okay to say, I just can't think about all of this right now. You might need time to work through what has happened and adapt to new circumstances. But it is important to realize that denial should only be a temporary measure. It won't change the reality of the situation. How to recognize that we are in denial or using one of the few mechanisms most of the time. We will have to depend on our sincere and true well-wishers to point out when we are in denial mode, because many times, immediately after the reasonable grief time or grief cycle is over and we are still living in denial, that means we are not able to understand our own denial. We need to fall back on our trusted people. Then ask yourself, am I willing to feel all my own negative emotions and pain until the day that you can honestly answer yes to this question? You will struggle with denial. Ask yourself how you have been in denial in as far as your past is concerned. Identify what damages those denials did and what could have avoided if you were not in denial at that time. What would you do differently if faced with the same situation again? This kind of conversation is very, very therapeutic and cathartic. Are you brave enough to ask trusted people to tell you what they think, whether you are in denial? Go over the list with a genuine desire to see how they might be right instead of spending your time defending how they are wrong and you are right. If denial is one of your coping mechanisms, then you are into a self-abusive relationship you have with yourself. And what you deny is what you actually need and actually want. Ask yourself, what I am really afraid to share with others? Am I trying to hide what I am trying to hide, which causing a lot of stress? Reach out for support for those painful truths from someone you trust to see you clearly and accept all of you. The desire to isolate and not to let anyone in on things that you yourself don't want to admit is strong, is also a very bad, harmful denier. Ask yourself what you are really ashamed of to admit to even yourself, as shame is literally the base of denial. You do not want to admit the unpleasant truths, because if you did, and especially if people around you saw or knew about those truths, you and they would see you as not good enough or less than who you are or unworthy, and you would have to feel shame. So if shame is the emotion that you want to hide, then you have to really let yourself feel ashamed. By not accepting the feeling reality of something unpleasant, you really can't change anything. This you have to understand and accept. Honestly examine what you fear. Think about the potential negative consequences of not taking action because of your fear, shame, or anxiety, or even not knowing something. Allow yourself to express your fears and emotions. Try to identify irrational beliefs about your situation. Challenge your assumptions. Challenge your perceptions. Open up to a trusted friend and loved ones and use them as a sounding board. Participate in a support group discussion. When you can't make progress dealing with a stressful situation on your own, you're stuck in the denial phase. A trained counselor can help you find healthy ways or healthier ways to cope with the situation rather than trying to pretend it doesn't exist. Seek help. That is the lesson. When a loved one needs help, as they might be in denial about serious health issues like depression, listen and offer their support, but don't force them to seek treatment. At the best, you can offer to meet together with a doctor or mental health provider. Self-sabotage and denial are the result of guilt, shame, and self-loathing. Then the way to end self-sabotage and denial is to love ourselves and forgive ourselves. Please read my blogs on how to love yourself unconditionally and watch videos. The way to love ourselves and forgive ourselves is to love others and to forgive others and to be service of others unconditionally. The more we do this, the more we send the message to our subconscious mind that we are good. Loving begins with understanding and accepting that I deserve, you deserve happiness and success. And the more subconscious mind shifts its purpose to accepting and loving yourself, the better you will become. So for that, identify your strengths, identify what good deeds you did, and start accepting them. And then start seeing your weaknesses as something which is there, which you have to manage or get rid of. Be open to people who think differently than you. Accept that there are people who will have widely different and opposite ideas than you, opinions and views than you. It is okay to be different and agree to disagree. Allow them to challenge your thinking on various issues. Be willing to examine your assumptions and opinion. Be willing to change your assumptions when you find they're wrong. Be willing to accept your mistakes openly. Be willing to apologize openly. Ask different questions about a situation and consider the facts those you have been ignoring because they don't fit your versions of reality. And when it comes, ask yourself, is it the truth? Listen to your subconscious because that will tell you. And tell yourself, even if I find out about myself, which is very embarrassing, I'm going to look in the situation, face the situation which you have been hiding. Feel the pain, feel the embarrassment, feel the shame, feel the guilt, feel the complete negative feelings. Tell yourself, I'm going to feel bad about it, but I'm going to feel it. Accept that anger you might be feeling. Accept that you may be on a short fuse. Accept that you might not be facing the reality of, say, not having the required skill for which you might have been laid off or might have been not been promoted. Accept that your health is not in the peak. Accept that you could be the reason the relationship going downhill. Overcoming denial does not mean that you can't feel. You're allowed to cry and you're allowed to move on with your life while still carrying that loss with you. You will always carry the event in your heart, but you will overcome the feelings of anger, blame, shame, guilt. So the only way is that you take your feelings, negative feelings of the events, because most of the denial would be based on past, related with the past. Take out all your embarrassment, all your mistakes, all your failures, and one by one go through them. And after you have gone through all these negative feelings, tell them, yes, that happened in the past, but I am not going to remain tied with them. And then create plans of future and then take one action that will fill you with positivity. That means learning something, doing something towards your dreams. So identify your dreams before that, and then one by one you start expressing yourself. When you feel bad, express that initially with very trusted people who won't judge you. And then you start expressing yourself in the public. When supposing you have made mistake, or you share that this is the life you lived. And once the things come in open, it becomes your catharsis. I'm wishing you all the best for a healthy, blissful